So the movie pretty much begins kind of like in the comic book, which is, mom and dad meet under the circumstances, and they fall in love, and they have a child, and the child grows up to become Arthur Curry. And one of the things I wanted to show early on is show that he doesn't quite fit into the surface world, and so he gets picked on when he was a kid, but then because he's different. And here's obviously a sequence where we see him getting picked on in an aquarium because he's talking to fish. But then that boy would grow up to become Jason Momoa, someone that you don't really want to mess with. And then basically Mera comes to the surface to appeal to him, telling him that we need your help because your half-brother King Orm is about to declare war on the surface world. Because he's had enough with the crap that we've been, we have no respect for the planet and we treat the world horribly. And so Arthur has to take that journey to Atlantis. This is what we see here, Atlantis, for the first time. And us, the audience in the movie, get to experience Atlantis for the first time along with our hero. So he has to go back there, take on his brother, challenge his brother to the combat of the king, to prove who is the right heir, the right person for the throne. Because Arthur technically is the heir to the throne because he's the firstborn. But obviously his brother doesn't want to give it up that easily. His brother, played by the amazing Patrick Wilson. And then, we see sort of other scenes where he's training to be, training by Willem Dafoe, Volko. And Amber Heard plays Mera, who is pretty much his other half. And they go on this incredible journey around the world on this amazing quest to try and do what they have to do to stop this war from coming to the surface world. And it's a classic action-adventure story, very much in the spirit of early Spielberg, early George Lucas, and classic Cameron as well. And this movie, I hope, really captured the spirit of the comic book and what we love in these kind of films. I hope you guys come and see the movie December 21st.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. So James Wan, the director of Aquaman, did commentary on some specific plot points. They recontextualized some of the events of Justice League going all the way back to Man of Steel. And there were a couple of scenes that they screened at Comic-Con that they did not release online, 3 specifically. So I'll explain the footage that was in those scenes and what these special Justice League Easter eggs were. So if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's a new round of that Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. I'll name a new winner at the end of this. So he explains specifically why Orm is attacking the surface world, also clarifies the pronunciation of his name. So Orm's rage against the surface world goes all the way back to Man of Steel, also confirmed by another Easter egg from the Shazam trailer too. There are a couple Aquaman Easter eggs during the Shazam trailer. But what happened is because of all the attacks that have happened when the Kryptonians came during Man of Steel and started tearing the planet up, and then later during Justice League when Steppenwolf started tearing the planet up, is that it did major damage to Earth's oceans. So even though the 7 nations of Atlantis have been divided since it sank 5,000 years ago, he's the descendant of the original ruler of all those 7 different kingdoms. So naturally, he feels like it's his responsibility to do something about this. So he blames humanity for all the things that happened during these big Man of Steel, Justice League attacks. He's using that to reunite the nation. So obviously Aquaman also Unite the 7 is doing the same thing, but for very different reasons. So it's funny how the new movies are sort of recontextualizing the events of the past movies, whether or not that was always the plan. They do the same thing during the Shazam movie with all the Easter eggs in Freddie Freeman's house. When you look, you see all the newspaper articles. It turns out that the world blames Lex Luthor for what happened during Batman v Superman, which I feel like is also sort of backdoor setup for a possible Injustice League movie or an Injustice movie. They might just shorten it if they want to do that in the future, like they teased at the end of Justice League. But because of all the stuff that's happened in the past couple of years, no idea if that film will actually come to fruition. They haven't said anything about an Aquaman sequel, but they did say that Black Manta would be featured in other DC films, but it would be that Lex Luthor Injustice film, just because he was a member of that team during the comics. So the 3 scenes that they screened exclusively in Hall H that they didn't release online are: 1 is a flashback showing how he was born. It's just an extended version of what you see at the beginning of the trailer, where his mother washes up on the shore, his father rescues her, they have a life together, but eventually she does have to go back to become ruler of Atlantis. The second one is much more important. It picks up right after they jump out of the plane at the end of the trailer here. They're in the desert and they find these special ruins where they go and they see this special technology left by King Atlan, where he tells them that there's this special trident that used to belong to him that was intended to unite the surface world with the nations of Atlantis. So unite the seven, I think, backdoor confirmation that the seventh kingdom of Atlantis is actually what we know as the surface world. Like, surprise, the United States, people in Europe, people in Africa, all over the world are the seventh nation of Atlantis, meaning that only 6 are underwater. But what happens is they get the message from Atlan to unite the 7, to find the trident. There's a couple funny moments where Aquaman's like, yeah, trident, whatever, I got it, let's go. They smash the hologram device so that Orm can't find it, then they leave and they get chased down by Black Manta. You see a version of that during the trailer where he's blasting them with his eye-beams. Like, that's right after they find out about the trident, get the message from Atlan. They also explain why the desert is so important, because it used to be underwater 5,000 years ago before Atlantis sank. The third scene was from the very end of the film. It was just voiceover and then a bit of a costume reveal. It's Mira saying to Jason Momoa's character, Atlantis has always had a king, but now it needs something different, a hero. Then you get the full reveal of him in the gold and green scale armor from the comics. So just remember, important idea is that it's not just about uniting the undersea nations of Atlantis, the 6. It's about bringing the nations of Atlantis in the surface world together, which is why I think the secret 7th kingdom is the surface world. Doesn't that just feel like one of those big blockbuster movie twists? Like, oh, not everybody sank with Atlantis 5,000 years ago. Some people continued to live on the surface, and they eventually populated the nations that we see in the world today. But if you didn't spot it, there was another really cool Aquaman Easter egg during the Shazam trailer where he's trying to fly. There's that big skateboard ramp. On the side it says Arian. They've changed Aquaman's origin story a couple times in the comics, but before Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, there was a miniseries called Arian, Lord of Atlantis, and in that story, the ancient ruler of Atlantis before it sank was a sorcerer named Arian, so it's a very, very deep cut. But if you're wondering, or if you don't read the comics right now, sorcery and magic are a big part of Atlantean culture, so I'll be interested to see how they explain that during the movie. Because Shazam is kind of like the first genuine magic movie, but because magic is such a big part of Aquaman comics, they might get into that too, but maybe just a little bit. One example of the magic of Atlantis is the giant dome that covers it and protects it from the outside world and shields it from view. Like, that's the reason why people haven't found it, because there's a magical barrier, just like the barrier that protects Themyscira. But let me know in the comments if you spotted any other big Easter eggs that I didn't mention in the video. Jeff Johns also did say that the Green Lantern Corps movie was going to be a total reboot of that franchise, so it won't have any relation to what they did with the last Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. But there wasn't really any other big DC movie news at the panel. There was some new details on The Flash 100th episode this season, so I will do a video about that soon. I'm also working on my non-spoilery Mission Impossible Fallout review, so that should post really soon. Congratulations to the latest giveaway winner. Cal Hunzor, please email me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. Click here to rewatch the Flash Season 5 trailer, and click here to rewatch that Shazam trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.